Every day at Bakersfield College, our students are moving toward their goals. Why aren't you with them? Is it cost? Family obligation? Maybe you don't feel prepared for college life. The good news is we're prepared to help you. You have yet to realize how much help and support is waiting for you at Bakersfield College. Learn more now on Equity TV. Good morning and welcome to Equity TV. I'm Francis Mayer, your host, and Equity TV is a product of Bakersfield College. It's a place where we encourage people to change their lives through attendance at Bakersfield College, and you could change your life in a lot of different ways. Maybe you're coming to BC to attend for 2 years so you can transfer on to a 4-year institution. We got a guy coming up on the show who did that and went to Harvard. Or maybe you've heard of the place. Or maybe you just come to BC to pick up a skill that makes you more important in your workplace and helps you make more money. Either way, BC helps people change their lives. I had a director out there making he's doing the YMCA dance, I think. Chris, it's not very flattering. Anyway, on to the show. Maybe you've heard of a film recently called McFarland. It's a touching story about some cross-country runners who changed their lives and changed history and put Kern County on the map for something really positive. We're going to talk to someone this morning who brushed elbows with that greatness. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning. Just fine, thank you.
And what's your name?
My name is Janie Flores.
And Janie, you worked in McFarland for quite a while, didn't you?
I did for 25 years.
Wow. Okay. And the focus of today's show is parental involvement. And we're going to be speaking directly to parents a little bit this morning. And understandably, the athletes at the heart of the McFarland story have gotten a lot of attention. But you were telling me something else, that the parents played a pretty pivotal role in making that happen. How so?
Absolutely. What happened was that McFarland High School was part of the Kern High School District. And then the elementary school was a different school district. So the street in the middle divided both districts. And so consequently, the students that would graduate from 8th grade would seldom reach the high school, which was only a street away. So it was the efforts put forth by some of the migrant parents, in fact, all the migrant parents that would actually go. I would drive them to Sacramento to testify in front of the State Board of Education in favor of unification. And it was that unification, it was under the administration of Dr. John Prescorn, but it was that unification that made it possible for the elementary to continue to work with the high school students. So we would check to see if the high school students that were ready to go, of course, would in fact show up. And with migrant education in particular, we were able to be part of the high school district too.
Wow, and you're bringing up something that has occurred to me recently. I'm a parent of 3 children. I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 16-month-old baby boy. And I'm shocked at how quickly my big girl is growing up. And when you think about the average life expectancy in the United States, I think it's 77 to 79 years old, we have a small amount of time with these little people, and then we turn them loose into the world. So those years you're talking about, the transition from elementary school to middle school to high school, that is so critical and pivotal. And parents have a tremendous amount of influence over that time. What did you do? Because your kids have turned out all right. You got one you had one went to Harvard, correct?
Yes, very proud.
Obviously. And then you have one who's a doctor of veterinary medicine, correct?
Absolutely, and very proud of him also.
And where did they grow up?
Grew up at the dairy, as a matter of fact. They were at the dairy while I was working McFarland the entire time. And living in a farm, I think we only had access to 2 channels, television channels. And so it's just, being there. Of course, I wasn't there physically because I worked in McFarland and that was in the Tulare area, but my husband was. And that's so important. The children need to know that there's someone there at home or someone at minimum that they can access at any time. And you need to know that involvement of parents, it doesn't need to be where you're at the school all the time. You could be supporting them in different ways, by working, by making sure, by writing them little notes and putting it in their lunch, by making those calls, by making those parent conferences, just knowing what's going to be going on the next day, reading to them daily. You can't say enough about that.
So you're really defining what being there means, and I think a lot of working parents, myself included, we head out the door each day carrying a little bit of guilt because we're not spending that time with our children, but you're outlining some very practical ways that parents can be there. and be involved and help your child succeed. If there were three things you think that made a difference in getting your kid off to Harvard and the other one off to Doctor Veterinary Medicine School, what were they?
Well, just remember that it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And that special time that you have with them, they need to feel that they are loved, that they are protected, that you have expectations of them, and that they need to be good, respectful children and then turn into adults that are there for the purpose of being a better good, making a difference in their own lives and the lives of others. They've told me, we'll never go hungry because when you have an education, you have choices. It's not a consequence, it's a choice. And they could be that and they could be anything else. My daughter is the United States Executive Director for Social Justice Programs. She is making a difference in the lives of others. And
is she the one who went to Harvard?
She's the one that went to Harvard. She went to undergraduate UCLA and then Harvard for postgrad. And then he went to UC San Diego and then UC Davis for his veterinary medicine.
Now, what do you say to the working class parents out there who are shaking their heads going, there's no way I could pay for that? Did you have a trust fund? Did you win the lottery?
You know, I am the daughter of migrant farm workers who never went to school.
Oh, wow.
And so anything is possible. It's not even about, having the money. It's about who cares if you have to owe? I mean, you're going to pay it. Many of us have credit card bills that we're paying and don't even know what we've purchased with them. But an education is solid. You have that. And you can continue paying a loan forever, but who cares? At least you're going to have the resources to be able to make that payment.
Right. And then, when you're old and tired, your children are going to say, well, we have a 5-bedroom home. We can spare one for you, or whatever the case may be, right?
Absolutely. Let's hope.
Yeah, which is how communities used to work.
Yes,
I mean, there came a day when your son would become the lord of the manor, if you will, and you would be reliant upon him for care. And maybe we're getting back to that kind of system. Did you know early on that she was headed for Harvard?
She was so determined, such a visionary. I knew she was headed to good things. That was the expectation, and that was what we provided. Mm-hmm. Even if it meant having to drive to Walmart at night to pick up that additional paper or what have you, a piece of whatever tool that she needed to complete. Although she was more prepared and organized than was the little guy, but he did very well. Yes.
And tell me about that. A lot of times I feel like I hear parents asking me if I've picked my child's thing yet. Like we have to get them on a path and they need to be prodigies. Did you know he was going to be a vet when he was 7 or 8 years old?
No, that was like the furthest thing from my mind. Actually, he didn't like school. He would have been happy not having gone to school, but he will tell you that the reason he went to school was because of fear. He was fearful of what I was going to do to him. Of course, I wouldn't have done anything, but anything's possible. And the children, our children, your children can certainly become anything. It's not that they're any smarter than anyone else. It's just that they were there to take advantage of the opportunity that's put forth for them. That's all it is, and in the work that I do now as a migrant regional director for BCSD, you teach parents, you educate parents on education. What is it that you have to do to give your children that opportunity that perhaps you didn't have? And once the parent knows, once they realize, then there is nothing more than they want to do than to support their children. I have students right now at Ivy League schools at UCLA. In fact, next week we'll be driving a busload of students from BCSD to UCLA, and the tour will be guided by one of my former migrant students. Who better to show the students that they can in fact do whatever it is that they put out to do. They can do it, and they will do it, and it's that way that they can make a difference in their lives, their families' lives, and the world for that matter.
Wow.
Our children speak Spanish, speak English. they're so gifted. They're so gifted, and the parents want nothing more than to see their children succeed.
And yes, and as a footnote, I want to encourage everyone. I'm teaching my children to speak Spanish. There are room for 2 languages, dos idiomas in California, right? So learn both. And parents, if you're Spanish speakers, please don't stop speaking Spanish to your kids. They're going to learn English soon enough. 2 languages is better than 1. You've been a wonderful guest. You've inspired me. I feel like a better parent just from talking to you. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for being on the show. If you missed the beginning of her segment, don't worry. It'll be on YouTube soon enough. But coming up next, we got a guy who's figured out how to make some money as a rock and roll star. Coming up next, the frontman from Mentiburu, and much more on Equity TV.